Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Hull City Fan Central YouTube channel, where today I do have my prediction ahead of the 2023-24 Championship season. So I'll be ranking each team through from 1st to 24th, predicting where I think they'll finish. This is based off a little bit of what I saw last season, a little bit of how I think they'll project into this season, along with some of their summer signings and summer departures mixed in with that. Obviously, this isn't the full extent of what your club is down to. I mean, I've not even put Hull City in the top 6 this year. I've gone for a bit of a hyper-realistic situation with a few possibilities thrown in there, a few maybe surprise places, so you just have to wait and see on that one. But we'll start off at last place, 24th, getting relegated down to League One. And I think Rotherham will get themselves relegated. Coming into this championship season, it does seem that they're probably the weaker side out of the lot. Lucky to survive from last season, and I don't think they've made too many advancements in sort of the signings department to really put a name on them to stay in the championship this season with the tough competition that is going to be in there. So I do pick them to go last. Coming in at 23rd, Sheffield Wednesday, another Yorkshire club who I don't think have done particularly well in promoting their side through with transfers yet again. They come out of a League One season where they narrowly managed to grab promotion, grabbing it through a playoff final, which I'm not going to say they didn't deserve to win, but they could have possibly not deserved to win based on some of the officiating. So it is a bit of one of them cases where they were a little bit lucky to be in the championship, but then they did also manage to get to the playoff final. So it's one of them where it's a head and tails toss. So I do think they'll be picked off at 23rd, getting relegated back down to League One. 22nd, and the final team I think will get relegated is maybe a surprise one, Birmingham City. Now, they've obviously lost Jobe Bellingham at the start of the transfer window, which was quite a big loss for them, losing a few other of their young talents, and I don't think they've really replaced them too well. Birmingham's squad last season, it was okay at some parts, and then some at other parts it was a bit of a downhill. I think that they really declined off towards the end of the season. They had an okay start, and then sort of come the end of January they started to derail a little bit from what I saw. So I do think they'll get relegated. This is one of them ones that was really tying up with whether it's them or whether it's another team, but I do think Birmingham will get relegated. Coming in at 21st spot, QPR. Now this is the team that could possibly get relegated. They just narrowly escaped the relegation zone, as I do think Birmingham will get relegated, but QPR could end up in that situation depending on a lot of things. QPR over the past few seasons have narrowly escaped relegation multiple times, grabbing themselves just the extra few points that they need to stay in the championship. I think there's an ongoing joke that, QPR have got to win one game so they can stay in the championship and all that sort of malarkey. I mean, it's a joke, but I didn't laugh. So I do think they'll stay at 21st spot after not really strengthening their side to too much great strength. And even losing some of their good players. I mean, you look at Willock, he's gone out for new adventures, and I think there's a few others of their top class players at QPR have gone out for sites elsewhere. 20th spot, Preston North End. Now, Preston had an okay season last season. I think they ended up in the top half, just or maybe around the 12th position. And so they started off pretty well. They was up in the top ends of the table at the start of last season. After I think they went 14 games with draws on each game. They narrowed us to a 0-0 draw, I believe, earlier on in the season. So I do think that it's possibly one of them scenarios where if those games did end the other way, if they did cast aside onto one goal that they let in per game, it is a loss scenario, and I do think that'll probably disfortune them this season. So I predict them to end in the 20th spot. 19th, I've gone for Stoke City. Stoke haven't really made too many impactful signings in this transfer window. They look to need to strengthen their midfield and possibly their attack a little bit more, especially on the wings. From what I saw at the end of from what I saw when they played Hull City last season, and I don't think they've done too much successful business. Certainly nothing that I've heard of. I mean, Stoke fans, let me know if your team have signed Lionel Messi, but I don't think you have. So I do predict you to finish in 19th. 18th spot, Huddersfield. Now, Huddersfield are a bit of a shadow of themselves from... 2 seasons ago, there was, I think they came third playoff final, and then manager leaves after a disagreement with the owners. Fighting relegation last season, Neil Warnock managed to keep you in it, and Neil Warnock is still at Huddersfield, but I don't think that he'll be able to do a miracle job of getting you into the top half. Finishing 18th, obviously there is a bit of a quarrel with the owners at the moment at Huddersfield. Neil Warnock, I don't think he's going to be too well of a job. Possibly could be out of the club by January, all things considering. So I do think Huddersfield will finish in 18th. 17th, Bristol City. Now, Bristol are an interesting case because I feel that they've got some decent players in their ranks. Obviously, they have that young player, Alex Scott, is it? Might be mistaken. I think they'll probably keep hold of onto this season and increase his price because you probably will get about 20-30 mil from him going to like Manchester City or something. So Bristol City are in sort of that in-between season where they really could do that money in to develop the squad and really push on to new heights. But then they want to keep hold of him to increase his value to then have the profit return bigger. So I do think it'll be a bit of a mediocre, a bit of a bypass season for Bristol, finishing in 17th. 16th spot now, I do have Plymouth Argyle. Now, Plymouth got promoted last season on the back of a title-winning season in League One. And I've put them a little bit lower than the team that came second in League One for the main factor of they did win a lot of their games just by 1-goal margins last season. They didn't dominate any games really. It was like 1-0, 2-1 wins, and it's the Championship. It's a bit of a different game, a bit of a tougher contest nonetheless. So I do think that those 1-2 goal margins could end up in draws, could end up in losses for Plymouth. And that's why I put them a little bit lower down to what Plymouth fans were probably expecting coming into the season, riding off the high of quite a really good season last season in League One. So I do predict them to finish in 16th. 15th spot now, West Bromwich Albion. Now, West Brom haven't done too much successful business in strengthening some of the departments where they've lost players over the past transfer window and January transfer window as well. Now, obviously, I am talking of the fact that it's a similar West Brom side that beat us 5-2 at their ground last season. But then later on in the season, we did manage to pick off a win against them at the MKM Stadium. So this is all one of them cases where it's two different teams. So I don't think that they'll have too much of a strong season. It's a similar case to Bristol where they're going to have an in-between season where they just need some fortune coming their way to then progress the team into newer heights. Now, 14th, Cardiff City. Now, I would have had Cardiff City lower, but their transfer business this year has been incredible. They're under transfer embargo, so it means they can't buy players. But the free transfer market, the loan players they've brought in have been incredible. Probably one of the best transfer windows in the league, and that's with being under a transfer embargo. So, I think they brought in Aaron Ramsey on a free. I mean, that one's incredible. I believe they're looking at, is it Bowler? Possibly. And then a few other ones they brought in. Top talents for Cardiff City's sake. So do you think they're going to finish in just below mid-table in 14th through these incredible signings? And obviously, this transfer embargo does lift in January, I believe. So we could see possibly them splashing the cash on developing that squad even further and possibly pushing higher than 14th. 13th now, Watford. Now, Watford have had a good transfer window and also a bad one. Good because they got a load of money in. Bad because it's come off some of their key players. Ismail Sarr's left and a few other players have left as well, grabbing in about 40-50 mil for all of the players that they've lost, and it's not really been invested into the squad too much. Obviously, they're out of parachute payment season, so they are going to be a bit more of a struggle to get the money in and get the financial fair play on track to really push up with a team that can do some damage in this championship. So it is one of them tricky cases. It's probably one of them ones where we'll see the investment come into Watford over a few seasons' time from these key players that they've let go on to go and further their careers, like Ismail Sarr. So it could be one of them ones where in a few seasons' time we have a Watford squad that are going to finish top of the league, that are going to progress into the Premier League and do a few good seasons up in the Promised Land. But 13th this season in my predictions. The final League One promoted side, Ipswich, I think they're going to finish bang mid-table, 12th. I think they've probably got the better squad out of all three of the promoted sides from League One. As I said about Plymouth being that 1-goal margin. Ipswich were dominating some of their majority of the games, winning. I saw a load of them like 5-0. I mean, you probably would be expecting that, but all things considering. So I do think they'll finish mid-table. A strong squad. People pushing them up a bit higher, saying they're going to get promoted and stuff. Don't think it's going to be quite one of them seasons. You've got to really manage expectations in the Championship. I mean, Sunderland last season, they went on a high, and they're thinking, oh, we could be replicating that with Ipswich. Possibly not. Possibly, though. But I do think they're going to finish slap bang mid-table. 11th spot, Swansea. Swansea had a good season last season, surprised many people, and I've seen a few people putting them down as dark horses this season. I think they're going to replicate some of the fortune last season, but then also struggle in some departments as well, so I'm going to put them to finish 11th. 10th spot now, Norwich City. Now, Norwich have lost Timo Pukki, who's been a long servant to them, but didn't do too much last season. They've retained on to quite a few of the talents that were doing good for them last season in 10th, so I do think they're going to finish in 10th spot. 9th now, Blackburn. Now, Blackburn had a good start to last season. They was definitely up in the promotion spots. I think they was vying off for automatics for a long part of the season, combating with Luton at one point. But then at the end of the season, it really derailed. I think after we went to Ewood Park and picked off that draw, and then it just from there, they just kept on losing and drawing against teams that they really needed to be winning against, and missed out on the playoffs. So then they end up in 7th. I don't think they're going to finish in 9th this season. I think that form could possibly continue into the season and then develop further. Obviously, they've lost a few of their talents, Ben Brereton Diaz being one of them. So we'll see what lineup Blackburn are putting out at the start of the season. 8th spot now, Hull City. Said I didn't go for us into the playoffs this season. I did put us in 6th last season, and obviously we finished a little bit lower than that at 15th. A lot of people are putting us either in 15th or in the playoffs. I think any improvement on 15th this season would be an absolute brilliant case for Hull City. Obviously playoffs would be a dream. It's something that the club are vying for. This season, possibly not. I think this season is one of them in-between cases where it's going to be a season that we need to look to put some longevity into this club. I know Liam's doing that with bringing in a few academy lads and putting a brand of football out there that is good for the club to bring in players. Transfer business hasn't been too extensive, and I like that. I like working with what we've got and then also strengthening up departments where we needed the strengthening up. I mean, we've signed Aaron Connolly today back on a permanent deal, so we're strengthening the areas, we're doing the business that we need to be doing. So I do think that we'll finish just outside the playoffs in 8th spot. Well, I say just outside, but a top 10 situation for Hull City would be a bonus. Millwall, I do think we'll just miss out on playoffs though, 7th position. Now Millwall have had a few good seasons. Obviously they've strengthened their squad massively over that time. losing a few players this transfer window, not doing too much business really in the transfer market, picking up players that they needed to pick up, sort of the staples that you need for a Millwall squad. So I do think that they're just going to miss out on playoffs, but it's nothing too much to put down on Millwall and more to put on the teams that are above them, because I'm going to go through my top 6 and I can't really see any of these 6 teams, maybe bar one, having a bad season in any scenario. So 6th spot now, it's with regret that I put Leeds. Oh, yes, Leeds, and I put in brackets next to it Scum. So I do think Leeds will grab 6th position. Obviously, they do have a good squad, I can say that. They've lost a few of their key players, but they've done an alright business of sending out some of the players that won't play this season out on loan for them to really put in a plan for them to go back to the Premier League there. I think they're bidding on them to go back up this season, and if they don't, it could be one of them situations where they are stuck in the Championship for a few seasons, or possibly even bouncing down to League One, similar to what Sunderland did there those many years ago. I say many years ago, about 5 years ago, was it, or something like that. So I think Leeds are really bidding on promotion. They've got a good squad beside them. I mean, they've obviously picked up Cardallo, he's best goalkeeper in the league. It just makes me upset. But we've got Aaron Connor. So 6th position for Leeds. 5th now, Coventry. Now, Coventry went to the playoff final last season, narrowly losing out to Luton on penalties. But they've obviously going to have not really the replication of last season. I do think playoffs still for them, but I don't think that the production factor of last season will be that up to that par against the teams that are in this league this year. So 5th position for Coventry. 4th now, Sunderland. Now Sunderland, they had a really good season back in the Championship last season. I mean, I look back on the 4-4 thriller that we had at them at their ground over the Easter period. Brilliant game. They possibly should have won it, but Ozan Tufan. So Sunderland, I do think they're going to grab 4th. Obviously, they picked up Joe Bellingham, who is a brilliant youth player, who I presume will be playing a lot of the season, because Sunderland have got a very young squad, and that's something that they're playing off and they're doing quite nicely. 3rd position now, I do think Leicester City will just miss out on automatic promotions. Now, they've lost a few of their, well, I say a few, quite a few of their key players from last season. I look at some of their star talents like Yuri Tielemans and James Maddison, that they've departed the club, bringing in quite a substantial fee. Obviously, they've replaced the departments possibly by a little bit weaker players, but players that are going to do a good job in the Championship, I feel. So 3rd spot is nothing too much to shy away from, and possibly I do think Leicester are going to go up via playoffs. So it'll be a 1, 2, 3 places getting promoted, Leicester grabbing the playoff win. In 2nd position now, Middlesbrough. Now, Middlesbrough had a brilliant end to the season under Michael Carrick, going from relegation candidates all the way up to the playoffs. And I believe that they may have made the playoffs or just was outside it. I can't fully remember now. But they did have a brilliant end to the season last season. And obviously they've still got Michael Carrick. They've done some good business this transfer window, so I do think that Middlesbrough will make the automatic promotion push, because Michael Carrick is possibly the best manager in the league, Barley and Rosenia. So then that leaves one team, and that's one team to get the top spot in the Championship this season, being Southampton. Now, it was unfortunate, really, that Southampton got relegated last season. I think it was due to sort of a manager influx and not really having a gel team. But they've not lost that many of their key players. I mean, you've still got the free kick wonder kid of James Ward-Prowse that I'm scared about. He is still at Southampton at the moment, along with a bunch of their players. They've not lost too many players. And the players that they have lost, they've strengthened those positions with being one or two different players and they're vying for their position. So I do think that Southampton have made an improvement on their team that did a disappointing time in the Premier League last season. So I do think that they're going to finish off at top spot. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this prediction, obviously for the Championship. Let me know where you think Hull City will finish, or let me know where your team will finish, and if you agree or disagree with my prediction, let me know down there. Make sure you like and subscribe, so we'll have plenty more Hull City news and content like this coming out in the coming days, obviously with our trip to Norwich this Saturday, starting off the Championship season. Boom.